Okay, kids, I'm going to tell you a story that I was told when I was younger, La Llorona, or the Weeping Woman. I was told this by my grandma when we were at the Rio Grande, and oh my gosh, it scared me so much. And in Hispanic culture, so many people believe that the story is true and actually heard her and seen her by the rivers and creeks. So, her name was Mary, and she was a very poor woman, and she married a rich man, and they were happily married. They had kids, and then all of a sudden the husband started to become distant. He didn't want to be by her or be around, but he would love to be around the kids. She had 2 kids, and she would love to be around them. And then one night Mary saw her husband with another woman, and she was so mad. And then so she came home, and then when her husband got home, she confronted him, and they got into a big argument. And he was super nice to the kids, and he was so mean to her. And so she took her kids out to the river, to the Rio Grande, and she took them for a walk right by the edge of the Rio Grande. And then, out of rage and anger and jealousy, she threw her kids in the water. And she realized what she did, so she tried to jump in and she tried to save them, but it was too late. They already drowned. And so she was so sad, and she would cry and cry, and she went running around the street screaming and crying. And they said that she died of a broken heart because she was so sad because of what she did to her kids. And then so now it said she comes out at night by the rivers and creeks, and you can hear her crying. And now they call her La Llorona because she's crying like a weeping woman, and ooh. And it said when the kids are bad to their parents, she'll come and she'll get them. So you kids can't be bad to your parents because La Llorona's gonna come and get you. And some people even say it's not even by the rivers and creeks, it's everywhere that they see her. So it's pretty creepy stuff, so you gotta watch out when you go, especially to the rivers and creeks, that you don't get snatched up by La Llorona. Okay, kids, I'm gonna tell you a story that I heard when I was a little kid. And my grandma told me this story, and she always told me to, pass it down to your kids. It's real. And the story is called La Llorona, or the Weeping Woman. And so I'm going to tell it to you so you can pass it down to your kids, and so they can know the story. It's a very big story in the Hispanic culture. And many people actually had said that they've seen her or heard her. So it's very interesting. Pass it down to your kids. So the story happens, of course, in New Mexico, by the Rio Grande. And it was of a poor woman named Mary. And Mary was poor, and she was but very, very beautiful woman, very thin, beautiful woman. She was poor, and she married a very rich man. They were super in love, and then they ended up having 2 kids. But for some reason or another, he fell out of love with her, and she would try to impress him all the time, and she'd do things for him, and he just kept getting distant, and he would only come around for the kids after a while. And that bothered her, and she did start to become jealous. But she loved her kids, she loved her family. But one night she saw him with another woman, and that just crushed her. She was so sad and brokenhearted, but she was furious at the same time. She was mad, she was pissed. So she just let it be, and he became more and more distant, and then he would only come around to visit the kids after a while, and he'd only pay attention to the kids. And one night after an argument, because he would only come around to see the kids and pay attention to the kids, they had a really bad argument. So she took her kids down to the edge of the river for a walk, strolling down the river. It's very nice weather outside, and it's common for people to jump in the river at night and take a quick swim when it's hot outside. So she was taking her kids out to the river for a walk, and she threw them in. Out of rage, she threw her kids into the river, and then she tried to jump in real quick, as fast as she could, but it was too late. They were already flowing down the river. So knowing what she had done, she just cried and cried and cried, going down the streets crying and screaming, my kids, my kids. And she would go out there at the river at night and cry, and people would hear her crying in the town. And that's how she got her name, La Llorona, or the weeping woman. And it was said that she died of a broken heart. It said at night by the rivers and creeks she comes out, and you can hear her crying, her distinctive cry, wailing cry, and it said that she's crying for her children. But it's also said that if there is any children around the creeks or rivers at night, she grabs them, thinking that they're her children, and she takes them in the water with them and drowns them, because she doesn't want to let them go like she did to her kids. So it's also said that if you're bad to your parents, La Llorona is gonna come and get you. So you kids better watch out. But a lot of people, especially in the Southwest, have said that they've seen her around creeks and waters, and even heard her. I know my grandma had told me that around the Rio Grande there's many people that's actually seen her. So very scary stuff. But that's it's a lot of this story has been passed down from families to families, generations to generations, in the Hispanic culture. So pass it on to your kids.